But with this hurricane coming, Isaac, I need to be down here to take care of my sailboat. You never know what the hurricane's going to do, so I'm trying to be prepared. Continue on further with the information of what happened with my children, Crystal and Gina. Hopefully I'll get these better. I hope to download somehow better on a different program, a different computer, something. A lot of you missed. Commander Freeze, Mr. Freeze, and Mrs. Freeze have my children. The children would spend the summers, during the summertime they would spend like 1 or 2 weeks or 3 weeks with mother in Fort Wayne by adoption, grandmother by adoption, not really natural blood relatives. Even when I was visiting, even when I was trying to have my visitations, so therefore I was denied a lot of visitations during this time. So the grandparents by way of adoption could have my children home house. And there's other times when excuses were made that the children wouldn't come to the Mrs. Freeze situation, so that the children wouldn't come to the phone. The call was like about 5 p.m. or 5:30. So, you know, it was very difficult when I'm on a job to go find a payphone somewhere and try talking to my children. I tried getting the chimes changed, and it was very, very difficult. I don't know if I did or not. I believe I did eventually. Got it changed to something better, but that's what it started out at. And that was make telephone calls. And sometimes I just wasn't able to make a phone call because I wasn't able to make time frame. And if I called a minute late, you're late. Okay, true. These are the kind of people that were might be given into custody of. That's pretty harsh. That is pretty harsh. I don't know if I'm driving 20 miles to a job, gone from week from day to day. I never know. I mean, I typically don't. Their mother or Ernest Stone. They used those photographs again. I'm thinking all day in jail. Maybe one day. I'm wondering whether or not it's against him because they photographed me. So maybe that's how this guy, because they used the evidence against me. And unbelievably, I just thought about that yesterday. That's criminal. If anybody wants a good career, you can find a good career in private investigations, because more and more people are lying. In court, you see it every day. They tell the truth, but they don't. Not at all. They lie. They're shading them so much you can't recognize it anymore. These people, and somehow they sleep at night. That's the depravity of this world that we live in. Incredible. Notes. So Rose and I moved up to Indiana. Never got any visitations, more than 4-hour visit. Sometimes they. Crystal comes up to me one day and says, see, Rose and I in Indianapolis, hoping to change the venue to Indianapolis and get my children out of Lafayette, away from that of Lafayette. We moved to Indianapolis because we had to move there first to be able to try to change the venue. Plus, I was in Indianapolis, so we moved to Indianapolis, and we expected to be there for a few. Wait this out, do everything that we can. This is 1980. Rose and I, we opened up a wallpaper store, and Rose at helping customers select wallpaper, and I hang the wallpaper. We have quite a few customers come in and steal numbers off the back of the wallpaper and go order from the catalogs. We have a few of that. So ask me, well, I'm gonna order the wallpaper out of the magazine, the 1-800 number, but will you hang for me still? And I go, oh, I don't think so. Unbelievable what people will do. So this was going pretty good with the wallpaper store. I thought it was going to be a success, but we had the recession of 1990-91, and it was making things very tough, very tough. The life of Rose's son, it couldn't do as much for him as I'd like to, because Rose and I are always going to arranging for a visitation or trying to arrange for a visitation. When we moved to Indianapolis, they discontinued a lot of our visit. It was no longer a attempt to make it once a week. It was now scheduled for like once a month or once every other week for 4 hours. Once again, never got for visitation. Rose's son is living with us, me and his mother. We're all in a family, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How her son is able to be with me, yet children cannot be. I've been trained and brainwashed to believe that they need to be scared or worried about me. I have not, I've asked my children to write me a letter, but they won't. They won't even send me a letter. They won't send me a letter. They just live. I contacted my oldest daughter, Crystal, like 6 years ago. And I'm going to just tell this little part, then I'll go. I encouraged Crystal to seek the father, to get to know her mother. During our first meeting in the mall, as we were walking the mall, I spoke to her and I said, "You want to get to know your mother. Okay. I don't believe children should be alienated from their parents. It's not right. It's not natural. It's very unnatural. It's bad for a child. Very bad. Unless that parent is really a danger to the child. It's very bad for the child to from their natural parents. Now, for some reason, Mr. and Mrs. Freeze thought that was just okay to alienate me out of the picture as their dad. Like my children were just a piece of commodity. It's like this. I'm walking down the road with a crutch, because I'm crippled, and my children are, and I fall. I'm walking down the road because I'm crippled, by and pushes me off the road. Take my children. That's really about how it works out. It's a good analysis of the situation. I was never contacted by... I made contact with the grandparents before I hired a private investigator. The initial part of the private investigation was contacting the grandparents. Grandparents said with the children, and they didn't know where she was, or the children. She didn't know, but they were on vacation. Might be back a week or two. That was the answer that I got from the grandparents. I need to check the time. I lost my timer. Okay. So I can't... not to call Mr. and Mrs. Freeze mom and dad. I'm reprimanded for that by this 20-year-old social worker that probably has less than 1 year experience on the job when she... Now, really better qualified to be parents than myself? Really? Sure, they have more money, but really... For instance, I'm not saying that this is true, but let's just imagine. Let's say that this is a possibility. Let's say that it is true. Let's just think. Miss Freeze has had an abortion before my children, before coming across my children. Some people consider that murder. So I have a murderous individual taking children. What about Colonel Freeze? His job is learning how to kill people. An Air Force pilot, Air Commander, now Colonel in the Air Force. He's killed quite a few people. Probably killed quite a few innocent people. In a lot of ways, he would be considered a murderer if that's true, that he has killed people or really facilitated operations which have killed people, innocent so-called bystanders. To think about. I'm a very peaceful guy. My dad, Seventh-day Adventist, was a medic in the Korean War. I don't believe in war at all. What if everybody didn't believe there'd be peace on the earth? What about everybody could control their greed? We wouldn't have all the problems that we do in society if people could control those unnatural desires, the desires they get. Somebody wants my children. They want my children. I've become very attached to a child, Barbara's little boy. But you have enough to know that it's not right. And understanding. We like to live in a very narrow scope understanding instead of a broad. For instance, the world, this entire earth, the knowledge that surrounds the planet. Okay, how does the world raise their children? All different kinds of ways. Some of the world raise their children would seem, very harsh. In this country would be allowed. Yet these people grow up to be healthy adults. Many people in our country of the United States do not grow up to be healthy adults. They grow up to be sad, really. They don't. We are violent, which is one of the most. Surely there must be something lacking. Feel knowledge, and wisdom. Wisdom exists, and other wisdom exists in this country, and the so-called Christian. It is truly something to think about.